Hello friends, welcome back to another video and welcome to the channel where for the entire month of June we'll be focusing on queer authors. And today we will be reading from a very beloved author. It is none other than Alice Oseman. I have already read Loveless by her, and I haven't read Heartstopper, which I do think would be very fitting for this whole challenge, but it's a whole series and I didn't know if I wanted to commit to that, and if I did, I didn't know how I would want to do that, so I figured it'd be safer to just go with a standalone book, and I picked up Radio Silence. I'm sure Alice Oseman needs no introduction because Heartstopper is just so widely loved, but if you didn't know, this author is asexual and aromantic. This book came out in 2017 and it focuses on a podcaster and a fan. Frances spent her time studying and making fan art of her favorite podcast, and then I will have to look up how to pronounce this person's name. The podcaster is the creator of University and goes by the name Radio Silence online, and then it's something to do with the collaboration. I don't know anything about the plot, and I also don't know if the characters are queer. At the top of the back, it does say, you probably think that we're gonna fall in love or something since he's a boy and I'm a girl. I just wanted to say we don't. So I don't know if this has anything to do with relationships or identity or anything like that, or if it's just a story, but I still wanted to include it because the author herself is part of the community. So it still applies. We're still good here. It looks like a scary book. I don't know what it is. I do think it is just because of the ominously dark cover. I genuinely have no clue what I'm getting into. I don't really like super modern books. I don't like books that reference pop culture or modern technology or anything like that, so I'm wondering how the podcasting experience will be written in this book. But same with Loveless, the writing does seem pretty easy to get through. It seems pretty lighthearted. The text is also fairly spaced out, and it's a very floppy book. So overall, I think the reading experience is going to be good just because of the way that the book is. Regardless of what's inside of it, just holding this book is so much fun. I'm not expecting it to be a new favorite, but I do think it'll just be a fun time. I think I'll try to get through the first couple of pages, kind of get situated in the whole world, and then I can come back to you and tell you what it's about, and then we'll just go from there and see how far I can get. I also just wanted to jump in here really quickly to say that this is going to be spoiler-free. In the vlog portion of it, I'm not going to talk about the details of the later parts of the book. However, at the end of this video, I will have a spoiler section where I will talk freely about whatever, anything that seems significant. So if you don't want to hear it, just skip the last couple of minutes and you'll be good. I'm a little bit intimidated to be reading a book of this size for this type of video. Since I am going through them so quickly, I don't want to speed through this whole thing. It's 474 pages. I think it's probably the longest book that I have for this whole month. But again, the text is pretty spaced out and it seems like pretty easy language. It doesn't seem complicated to actually read. I think it'll pass a lot faster than we're expecting. For reference, it is currently 1:14 a.m. on June 5th, so I will catch up with you guys in the morning. Hello, it's the next morning and I have to go to work fairly soon, but I wanted to check in and tell you guys how far I got. Last night I read up to page 32, and it's exactly like I said. I know I'm gonna move through this book so quickly. So in this book, you're following Frances. She's at top of her class, she's hardworking, she really is good at school, but she's kind of only good at school. She doesn't really have any other personality traits, and she's very, very sad. And she's just excited to get to go home and get into bed and get all cozied up and listen to her comfort podcast. And it's not just any old podcast, it's a sci-fi monster university comfort podcast. She thinks that the podcaster's voice is just really soft and cozy, and she likes to make fan art for it. She's very devoted to this podcast. Also, I just wanted to mention how diverse Alice Oseman's books are. There are so many different types of people, and it's so refreshing to see because it's not forced at all. It's just a casual person thrown in there, and it doesn't have to go into detail about what they look like. It's just mentioned and then it moves on because it doesn't really matter, but it lets you know that they are there. But this book moves very, very quickly. By page 15, this collaboration was already offered. It's between Frances and Aled, which I did look up how to say that name, but I'm still gonna get stressed every time I say it. But Alice Oseman did used to post YouTube videos where one of them was talking about this book, so if the author says it, then I'm assuming that's the right way to say it, but I'm just gonna be second guessing myself the whole time. But I also recommend that you watch that video because I think it's very cute. But Aled offers this collaboration from page 15, so it really gets moving very quickly. And I wanted to keep reading it even though it was 3 a.m. Not necessarily because of the plot, but just because of how easy it is to hold. Like I said, this is a very floppy book. The words are very spaced out, the language is very easy to look at, and the chapters are only like 2 pages long, so you really move through it very, very quickly. Shortly after the collaboration is offered, you get to see them interacting in person, where they've known each other, they've kind of been mutuals floating around each other for a while, and as the reader you can feel the tension because just from reading the back you know that this is the podcaster, but obviously the characters don't know that, and you assume that they probably won't know that for a little bit, so it's just funny to watch their interactions and to know that they're also interacting in this other space and that they look up to each other and they don't even know it. it. You learn that Aled is a terrible public speaker and terrible just socializing in general, which is obviously very contrasting to their podcaster personality, where you have to be pretty outspoken because you're kind of just running the whole show. I can relate to the characters already, which 33 pages through is pretty good. Francis being somebody who is so devoted to school and then comes home and just relies on their comfort videos, and Aled for being super outspoken in one place and then super shy and quiet and just closed off in the real world. I like it so far. I still think it's a little bit silly. I don't think it's gonna get super deep, but I'm having a good time. I'll catch up with you guys tonight. I would apologize for the questionable lighting, but at this point, I think we all know what we're getting into. I just don't feel like setting up the ring light because it's 11 p.m. I just got off of work. But when I tell you this book is what got me through the last hour of the shift, I need to go back in and edit in something where I say that this vlog is going to be spoiler free. I might talk about stuff at the very end. If I do, I'll have a big spoiler warning all over that, but I'll probably talk about details for the first 150 pages, and then after that I'll be more vague. But genuinely, I'm having such a good time while reading this book, which I was not expecting. With Loveless, I enjoyed it. I appreciated the representation, but it felt a little bit too childish, especially considering that they were older, you know, like most of these characters in most of Alice Oseman's books are later years of high school or early college years, so it just felt a little bit too immature to enjoy. In this book, they're in their senior year of high school, and it felt really nice. So far, I'm having a really good time. The reveal that these two are the podcaster and the fan comes up pretty quickly, which is to be expected because that's what's on the back of the book, so it wouldn't make sense to have it later because then it would just be a giant spoiler. But I was just thinking about how insane it would be to make that connection, to be a fan of somebody, and then to realize that after however many years of knowing them casually, they are this person that you've looked up to the entire time. And even better, that it happens through a drunk conversation that shouldn't even be happening and that the other person doesn't remember in the morning. That's such a wild way to find out something like that. And I wrote down that the reveal on the way home when they're talking about it and they actually say the thing, it made me want to throw up because I understand how that feeling is. I've been posting YouTube videos since 2016 and then before that as well, but we don't talk about those. But I would be in high school and my teachers would be talking about my videos that I didn't know people at school were seeing, and all of a sudden classmates know about my videos, and it's just a really weird interaction to be like, oh yeah, I do that. By the way, this thing is me. This is another part of me that I also do that you didn't expect, because my personality on here is the total opposite to how I am in real life, but here we are. It made me so uncomfortable because I could relate to it so much. I also thought that the friendship and the passion that they both have for this mutual thing that they have going, everything to do with that reminded me very much of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, which is focused on the friendship between these two people as they create a video game and you're following them throughout their years. They're both about platonic friendships. Neither one has a romantic relationship. They're just people that coexist and really care about this one thing together. And also in this book, same as with that one, it will reference something from the future. So it'll be like, maybe if I knew this thing, I would have acted differently, but I didn't know it yet. Very similarly to how in Tomorrow Times 3, it'll mention how later in life they got super successful, but you still have to get there. So it makes you want to keep reading because you want to know what is it that they know in the future that we don't know in this moment. Also, before I said I wasn't sure if the characters were queer, I can confirm that they are. A nice little surprise. I don't want to say between who, but I think it's very cute that it's in there. And also the podcast character, the one that they're so focused on, is a gender. Aled didn't assign a gender to them, so some days they'll have a more masculine voice, some days a more feminine voice. They just change it up with editing software. So this character can be whatever people picture them to be. I read a lot in cafe. Like I was saying, this book is really easy to get through. I think I got through like 150 pages or something. I'm on page 2 something. And I thought it was so special that Aled was recording the podcast in front of Francis, because that's such an intimate thing, especially when you're more shy and closed off in real life, to then invite somebody into the space of recording. I've never recorded something like this while other people are in the room. You can probably see when I'm in the room with other people, if I'm recording a video, I'm very much not talking to the camera, and if I am, it's very much subdued. It's very much not like this. So I was just thinking about how personal and how special that is to open up that whole space to somebody else. Like I said, it's currently 11 p.m. I was just at work for the entire day, but genuinely, nothing makes me happier than the idea that I get to sit down and I get to read more of this book. It's so easy to get into. It's such a nice escape to just watch the friendship between these two characters. I have no clue how far I'm gonna read tonight, but I'm excited to do it. I'll tell you if anything fun happens.
Universe City Podcast, Episode 140, Fine. Hosted by Universe City. Do you think this is all some sort of joke?
I wonder why you're even listening to this in the first place. Are you just turning your radio on each week to listen to some funny story about silly old radio and their friends zapping a new monster and solving the mystery like we're the bloody 26th century Scooby-Doo gang? I can see you now, having a right old laugh to yourselves, while we're here, slowly dying from the city fumes, being murdered in our sleep. I bet you have the power to contact us, but you just can't be bothered. Have you even been listening to anything I've been saying? You're just the same as everyone I knew in the old world. You can't be bothered to do anything.
This mom just walked into the room and said, "Your hair's getting long," and grabbed scissors and chopped off 10 centimeters. Oh. Just for fun. Hello, good morning. It is update time. We are steadily making our way through this book. I'm on page 333. Last time I stopped at 222. Look at that. I was so tired last night. I was dragging my eyes across the pages, but I still didn't want to stop. Partly because I'm having a good time and also partly because I wanted to finish this video. But because of how short each chapter is, I just kept going. I kept telling myself, oh, I'll stop when I get to this one, and then it was only a page. I was like, well, that wasn't so bad. I can do another one. I fully think that we can get through it by today. It's June 6th at 11 a.m. so we've got enough time. It'll be fine. But this book is so special. Again, I already talked about the friendships in this, but genuinely they just bring out the best in each other for so much of the book. Again, because of this mutual passion for the thing that they're putting out, they just both cared so much. And I like that it's not romantic. I like that it's very explicitly not a romantic thing. They are just their truest selves around the other person. They both are very serious and very quiet in their public lives. They both have these reputations to uphold of being the quiet one or being the smart one, and that's kind of all there is to them. But when they're around each other, they're allowed to be a little bit more silly, and they're allowed to engage in their other activities. So they're allowed to make silly jokes, and they're allowed to wear clothes that look a little bit weird to most people. They're just allowed to be more carefree with each other, and it's really nice to see. The big conflict, not only is it that they know each other's identities, because that didn't really matter, that happened right at the beginning, but the conflict, it says when Aled's identity is revealed, Francis fears that Universe City and their friendship is at risk. I didn't realize that meant that everybody is gonna know who he is. This book is big on Tumblr. It came out in 2017, but it's big on talking about people on Tumblr. And if you know anything about people on Tumblr, they will dig up things that you did not expect them to dig up. So they're trying to figure out who are these people that are trying to stay anonymous, which would be stressful in any situation, but Aled is especially stressed out about it, and you don't really know why. You don't know why he's taking it so seriously. He explains it away by saying that it's just that this world was supposed to be private. That's the whole vibe of it, is that he explains it away by saying that this whole world was supposed to be private. That's the whole vibe of it. That's the whole vibe of it, is that you don't know who this is and you don't know anything to do with real life. So if people are to find out who he is, it takes away the magic. And people were saying, what's the big deal about it? You're getting YouTube famous, take it for what it is. But genuinely, that would be so frustrating. To build an anonymous world for 2 years and then have it all come out just because people are invasive and weird on the internet, which is something that 6 years later is still very relevant. They're trying to figure out who he is, and they end up trying to find his school, and they end up trying to find his other friends. Also, a whole big focus of this book is just school and figuring out what to do with your life, because the characters are in their senior year. They're getting ready for college, university. I didn't catch on to that for a long time, but the podcast is kind of being called out for just talking negatively against school, because these characters are trying to figure out what to do with their lives, and they're very, very stressed about the idea of going to college. For instance, it's established at the very beginning that she is really smart, that she kind of has school as her only personality trait, but she's really sad and she wants to be something else, but this is kind of the box that she's put herself in. And when she's talking about college, she's not saying it like she wants to do it, she's saying it like it's a necessity, like that's just the next step, because that's kind of what's expected of people. You finish high school, you go to college, you get a good job, and you move on with your life. But also, from the beginning, she was only doing things for show. She didn't really care about being the head girl, which is the thing that happens at the very beginning, and she BS's her way through her speech. And 300 pages through, she's finding out that that's not really a way that you can live life. At some point, you have to start living for yourself and being confident understand your own decisions, and you can't just follow what people think is good for you. And you also can't fake your way through life, because eventually that's going to catch up to you because you're just not being true to yourself. The one thing that's confusing about where I'm at right now, I still have like 150 pages left. Where I'm at right now, she's sort of reconsidering this whole BSing through life thing, and she's realizing that she should focus on things that she cares about. And that's what was discussed at the very, very beginning, which is kind of a full circle moment for the book, which you'd think would be coming to a conclusion. Like normally when the main character addresses the problem that they had in the beginning, that means that they're getting to the end of their story. So I'm very confused how we have this much left, because to me it seems like she's realizing this, and then she's gonna start following her own passions, and then Aled is either gonna forgive her or move on and do his own thing, because right now he's just kind of stressed and isolated because of being found out. I just don't know what else is gonna happen in the rest of this book. I'm not saying that it should end right now. We'll see. I don't know what the rest of this book is gonna have, but I do think I can finish today. It's what we've all been waiting for. College results day. It was January. It was the day. I was trying not to think about the fact that if I hadn't gotten in, I had wasted a strong percentage of my life. Almost everything I'd done at school had been with Cambridge in mind. I'd chosen my A-level subjects for Cambridge, I'd become head girl for Cambridge, I'd continually gotten amazing grades for Cambridge. Regardless of college results, that's not how you should live your life, and I feel really bad for people that spend all of their school time focusing on just proving that they're good at school. I had a friend in school who was very similar with their whole thought process about going to college and about needing to prove yourself and about only taking classes that looked good on applications, only doing electives not because you enjoyed them, even if you hated them, but because it looked good. And that's such a sad way to live, because school is such a small part of your life, but it sure would suck to only have that as your only thing and then have it fall through. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but in this book you're following Francis and Aled, and they're friends and they're working on this thing together, but before that, Francis was friends with Aled's twin sister, Karis. I think that's how you say it. Which would also just add another weird layer to the dynamic, because I am a twin and I can't imagine somebody being friends with my brother and then they have a falling out or it doesn't work out and then years later they become friends with me. I would feel so strange about that whole interaction, but we're in the final little bit and that whole dynamic is kind of coming together. It's all becoming relevant in the end. I'm on page 430, so we have like 40 pages left, and this better not pull in all the bright places. I cannot do that right now. I don't think it will, but that's what they are afraid of, and I don't like it. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of this video, because I did finish Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I don't know what I want to rate it yet. I think I need to think about it, because when I went into it, I didn't think I would like it. I thought it would be too childish just because the other book felt that way. It felt like the characters were a little bit younger than what it said that they were, so I thought it would be something similar here, but I really enjoyed the characters in this. I thought the friendships were really fun and I could relate to the story, so that enhanced my reading experience just because I could kind of understand the feelings. So I don't know for sure what I want to rate it yet. I also do frequently go back and change ratings, because after reading it I never thought about the book again and then I'll knock it down a point or two. So whatever ratings I say in here, it is not like a final rating by any means. I constantly go back and rethink it. When I was like 300 pages in, I was saying I don't know where the story is gonna go. It feels like it's kind of bringing it around to the beginning already, so what else is there to say? But I completely forgot that there was an entire thing that hadn't been resolved yet. Francis being friends with Karis, and then also in the podcast there's somebody called February Friday, and everybody in the fandom is trying to figure out who this is and who these messages are for, because radio is calling out to this person and trying to say something, and it seems like confessions of love almost. So fans are trying to speculate and say, is this a romantic thing? Who is this other person? Who are they so in love with? And at page 300 you never really get a conclusion on either of those stories, so it would have been really unsatisfying if it had finished then. That's why the other 150 pages were there. It does go into, for both of those characters, it resolves those things. And it also addresses their university fears about how maybe school like that isn't for them, or they have other passions or anything like that, which was nice, and it's a good message to hear. The ultimate idea that it comes down to is just that you don't have to go to university if that doesn't feel like the right path for you. You're allowed to have your own passions. Fair warning about this book, it does have an abusive mom in it. She's very cruel to them, she has really high expectations, and she takes it out on them in really mean ways when they don't live up to them. I think this last section is going to be a spoiler section, fiction, just things that I wanted to talk about, but you don't find out until later in the book, and I don't want to ruin it if you are reading it. So if you made it this far, but you don't want to hear about later details in the book, then now's your time to click off. I'll give you guys a second here, because I know sometimes when I'm watching videos, I will step away from the computer and then they'll start talking about something and I have to run back to try and pause the video before they spoil the entire thing for me. We good? Did you all escape? I hope so. Let's get into it. First of all, can we talk about the queer relationships? I kind of went into it just knowing about the author, and I was pleasantly surprised to learn that both of the main characters have attraction towards people of the same gender. Frances had a little bit of a thing with Karis. The whole reason that Frances feels guilty about Karis leaving is because she had kissed her the night before and it wasn't reciprocated, and she thought that that had sort of chased her away. But before that, they were just genuinely having a connection and having a good time. And also Frances was looking up to her as somebody who is so confident in their sexuality. But then you also get Aled and Daniel. They've been best buddies for life. They've been best buddies since birth. And they had a thing that was very much experimenting. They didn't really put a label on it. But Daniel developed feelings for Aled that weren't really feeling reciprocated. They were, but it's just that Aled isn't very good at expressing anything. He's very quiet. He very much keeps to himself, so he just wasn't as outward with his affection, but that didn't mean he didn't feel it. And you get to see them together, and then at the end of the book, Aled comes out as ace to Daniel. It was so sweet. It filled me with such a warm feeling. Specifically, he came out as demisexual, and it was just so sweet that it was just an immediate, yeah, I get it. I can't personally relate to that feeling, but you're still cool and we can still do this thing. Also, when they were drunk posting, I knew that it was gonna be the shoes that gave them away. When you're being this anonymous person, but you're wearing something that is so easily identifiable, and they're posting blurry pictures of each other, which first of all, if you're trying to be anonymous, don't post any real life pictures of yourself, but also one of those pictures is of those shoes, and I knew it was gonna come up and be the thing that got them caught. If you did stay and you wish to know how evil the mom is, she only cares about academics, so she does everything that she can to remove distractions. She did as much as she could to isolate her kids, to be like, school is the only thing that matters in your life and anything else is a distraction. And then while Aled is away at college, she puts down his dog. The idea of, oh well, it was too much work and the dog was old enough so it's okay. I've heard that before, so I know that it is possible, but that doesn't make it feel any better. I knew that February Friday was gonna come around to be Karis just because, I mean, it had to wrap up somehow. She had to be significant in some way, so their two mysteries came together of why did she leave in the first place? Is Frances responsible? Paired up with who is February in this podcast. It all combined to have a nice clean ending, which was nice. Also, how cool would it be to have a name that is a month? Only some of them. January's okay, February's okay, March is weird, April's really nice, May and June are nice, July is bad, August is okay, and then September through December are meh. That's my month rating, if you ever needed my opinion on that. And then the last thing I have here, page 378. I don't know if you can read that or not. Imagine you go on to watch your comfort streamer, and it's just an hour-long white noise static screen. How horrifying would that be? And the way that he gets death threats for it, like, clearly that is somebody who's going through something, and even if they're fine and it's just an artistic choice, it's just a show. Move on. It sucks if that's something that really happens, that fans get so obsessed with shows that they'll take it into the real world, and they'll threaten the people who are making it when things don't turn out the way that they want. Anyways, I'm gonna end this video here because it's 1 p.m. and I wanted to post this video today, so I've got some editing to do because I haven't started editing yet. I think the one after this one, the one tomorrow, is going to be kind of just a week in the life vlog if I can finish editing it by then. But if you would like to see any of the reading vlogs, they're gonna be here. There's gonna be a lot of them. If you like that idea, or if you just like my face and you want to see more of it, you can subscribe to this channel or my main channel, riverbxnd, where I post music content, or my Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Goodreads, and Storygraph, which I will have linked in the description. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.